When I coach clients on their pitches and presentations, one of the biggest things that they seem to struggle with is storytelling. Now, I often get a lot of pushback around this. People will say, oh, it's easy for you, Dominic. You're used to standing up there on stage, or you used to be an actor. It's just that kind of performance thing. But I don't think that you need to be a great actor in order to tell a great story. What you need is a great framework. If you're interested in storytelling, then many of you will have come across this, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, or The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. It's brilliant, but it's not easy. It's really complicated. There are lots of different steps. We've got to think about how we move through them all. And in reality, when you're speaking up in a meeting or delivering a work presentation, you want something that is much more punchy and to the point. So I'm going to share with you the formula that I use, and it's called the SELL formula. In the newspaper industry, there's an old adage that facts tell and stories sell. And if you think about it, you very rarely see facts on the front of a newspaper. You see a story that draws your audience in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the 4 steps, and then I'll give you an example so you can see how I put it all together. Let's dive in with the S, which is setting. All too often when people are telling stories, they're not really telling stories, they're giving you a list. This happened, and then this happened. I walked into the room, I opened the door, I sat down at the desk, and that's really not particularly interesting. What we need to do if we want to engage our audience is we need to capture their imagination. And the way you do that is you start to engage their senses. So you need to think about what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it smelled like, what it tasted like, what it felt like. And if you can start to bring that sensory language into your description, then your audience can't help but use their imagination. And you start to point them in the direction that you want them to take. If I say the word beach to you, some people will be thinking of a pebble beach. Some people will be thinking of a stony beach or a sandy beach. Other people will have a blue sky. Some people's beach will be in the pouring rain and the howling wind. So what we want to do is we want to point our audience in the direction that we want their imagination to start flowing in. So we might say something like, I walked along the golden sand, the water lapping at my feet, a gentle breeze and the sun beating down on my shoulders. That might be too much. We don't need to overdo it, but what we do want to do is give our audience just enough that we start to draw them in. Once you've engaged your audience with the setting, then we want to move on to the event. And that's the E in SELL. And this is the climax, the moment that everything changed. It's probably the reason that the story is a story in the first place. So you want to land people in the heart of that action. If we're walking along the beach, it's the moment that the shark attacks. Or if we're speaking at a conference, it's a moment that someone heckles us from the audience. You know, what is that big kind of turning point where everyone sat up and paid attention? The next step in the formula is the link. And this is really important. This is where you bring it back to you as the person telling the story and share that connection with the audience by revealing your emotion. So the link is how you felt. Or if you're telling a story about another group of people, how did that group of people feel in this moment? When that thing happened, what was the impact that it had? Because again, if we can start to describe that emotional reaction, our audience can feel that feeling with us too. So this is really important not to skip over. We're not just painting the picture for the audience, but we're also bringing it back, linking it back to ourselves and sharing how we felt in that moment. And the final L in SELL is learning. We don't want to be storytelling for storytelling's sake. There are brilliant storytellers out there and you listen to them chat away for 15, 20 minutes and then kind of go, hang on, what was the point in that? And we don't want to be that person. We only want to be telling stories in a business or work context if there is a point to what we're saying, and therefore we need to make the learning explicit. The reason that I tell you this is X. I want to share this with you because so that your audience really understands why you told them that story in the first place. I share the SELL formula and several other storytelling frameworks in my new book, Cut Through the Pitch and Presentation Playbook, and you'll find a link somewhere around this video. But the last thing I want to leave you with is an example. Let's look at how we use this in real life. And quite often, especially in a work context, we're not gifted with amazing dramatic stories. We're trying to weave a narrative together for something that is quite simple. So let's imagine that you have been on a site visit to a manufacturing facility. That's probably as kind of grey as it gets. You've been talking to some members of staff. How can we take that and weave that into a story? So it might look something like this. Last Tuesday, I had the privilege of visiting our manufacturing hub in Leeds, and I got to don the high-vis jacket, the hard hat, and the rubber boots and walk around the factory to see how the production line worked and to see the product flowing through the space. I was lucky enough to speak to Debbie. Now, Debbie has been with the organization for 24 years, and she shared her experience of seeing things grow and change over that time. And speaking to Debbie, I was left with a real sense of pride for how our business has looked after its employees. To see someone that left school and joined in their first job and is still proudly working for us now is a real endorsement of the culture that we have created. And the reason that I tell you this is that I believe this business is not just a business, it's a family. So there you go. Setting, event, link, learning. Have a play and let me know how you get on in the comments.